This video is going to be a film study look at Nate Wiggins' extensive action in the Ravens' 35-10 win over the Buffalo Bills. The Ravens' pass defense utilizing a mixture of base, nickel, and then dime, which I think at some point we're all going to recognize as their best group, particularly in known passing situations, second and long, third and six or more. Nate Wiggins heavily involved as the left outside corner. Brandon Stevens, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton played, I think, 54, 55 snaps, basically plus 90% of the snaps during the game until, the game was pretty much over, 25-10. Nate Wiggins, I think, played 50 or 51 snaps. I got, I think, 10 coverage snaps here to show you guys. Vastly improved from the last time we saw him. I thought against the Cowboys that there, and I said this in my reaction video and into this Discord, I understand probably a lot of Ravens fans didn't like it. I thought we needed to get him off the field, but he looked smooth in this game, very aware. The difference between him and Brandon Stevens is one of assignment in a lot of ways. Brandon Stevens is often playing man, so when the ball is thrown downfield to him, his back is turned. He doesn't know that the ball is on its way. Nate Wiggins is often playing outside leverage with his back or butt to the sideline and his eyes or his face mask looking into the quarterback. So he can see the routes that are developing to the inside from the middle of the field emanating inside out, and also possibly see the quarterback depending on the quarterback's height and the angle of his field of view. I think Nate Wiggins plays that particular technique that I just described extremely well. A little more physical than people would perhaps give him credit for after last week's showing against the Cowboys. I think the film displays it probably better than I can explain it, so we'll get to the film. I'm going to talk about possessions and then the situation and which defense we have on the field. So we are in our nickel defense here. Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson on the field. It's a 2nd and 2, first possession for the Bills. Of course, the Ravens get a stop here. It's a great stunt by Travis Jones. Travis Jones is stunting from the top side defensive tackle position. He'll stunt to the inside A-gap and then get involved in making the tackle. But here's Nate Wiggins downhill. Those two basically sandwich the running back. In this case, it's Ray Davis for no gain. Like I said, it's a 2nd and 2. We got to stop on the very next play, the third down, which I'll show you in a moment. Outside in, tackling with his outside arm, outside shoulder, outside arm free, along with Travis Jones, who, like I said, made a great stunt to cross the center's face and get involved in the play. The ensuing play, third down, Wiggins down here to the bottom side. Him and Kyle Hamilton were asked to switch off a lot of these pick-rub concepts repeatedly. I thought they were generally pretty good at it, if you ask me. Wiggins is lined up tight, and Hamilton's often going over the top, so there seems to be a predetermined nature to this. This is obviously an attempted pick here, or shield, whatever you want to call it. Josh Allen's already moved off of that because he saw Kyle Hamilton flowing over the top. I think Hamilton's range and burst matches up really well, particularly when the ball's on the right hash with Wiggins as the corner. So Wiggins smaller, obviously, than Hamilton, quick, very agile. And when the ball is on the right hash, we end up with Brandon Stevens as our field side corner, Marlon Humphrey as our nickel defender to the field, Kyle Hamilton, the dime linebacker in some cases. In this case, we actually have both inside linebackers on the field, so it's not a dime alignment. But Kyle Hamilton can play pretty much anywhere. I think he matches up well with Wiggins being down there into the boundary. I'm going to be really interested. Nobody tracks this, and it's probably my first time ever verbalizing it. I am often wondering now about yards per play against the pass when the ball was on the right hash for the offense versus the ball being on the left hash. I think Wiggins being able to play and function for us, he fit in, I thought, extremely well on Sunday night. Pushes Marlon Humphrey to the nickel. If those guys can stay healthy, I think we can be way better against the pass than we showed in the first 3 weeks. Second possession here, another rub or pick concept to the downside, and you get Wiggins matching up with Hollins, who's a big physical wide receiver. They're obviously running the route by Hollins to the outside shoulder of Kyle Hamilton, so forcing Hamilton to go underneath, and you can see that Josh Allen has already identified it. He's got what he wants. Completed pass to Kincaid, who didn't, quote, beat Hamilton. He was aided by the pick or the shield concept, which offenses get away with at this point. But you have the dynamic I described a moment ago inherent in this play. It is our dime package with Roquan Smith as the lone inside linebacker on the field. So instead of 5 DBs, we have 6, and all 6 of them can cover, can play, and they bring something to the nature of the defense. Nate Wiggins being able to play, being able to perform, I think, is a huge determining factor, just as big as Marlon Humphrey being healthy. If either one of those things doesn't happen or doesn't exist, the Ravens' pass defense, I think, is diminished to an extent. 4th possession here, Josh Allen throws this ball behind, I think it's Hollins. We're dropping down into a cover 3, so it's a cool little version of how we're doing it. I would say it's almost a Steelers-esque version of it. It's 4th possession. We're going to drop Williams down to play on the right hash. Roquan Smith is going to push to the left hash from his Mike linebacker position to the field, and then Trenton Simpson is going to push to the flats, almost matching the running back's width. So I'm fine if someone wants to call it a match 3. That's fine with me as well. We roll Kyle Hamilton into center field. Marlon Humphrey matching out into the flats. Keeping his eyes on the quarterback, to me, is what yells cover 3 about it. But I understand on the outside, particularly down here to the bottom side, Brandon Stephens is playing man. But it's his turn that, after the game, when we watch the All-22 film, can give it away for me. Meaning Brandon Stephens is opening to the inside, so his back or his butt is to the sideline, and he can see the quarterback and see the route developing. I think that technique benefits him as well. I think it helps him with some of the deeper balls, deeper shots that are down the field where he's unable to get his back turned. It's not an easy technique to be able to do. But in any case, ball could have been intercepted by Nate Wiggins, thrown behind Hollins by Allen. Not sure about the window that he had there from the second level. I don't have the All-22 angle of that one. 5th possession now. Incomplete pass down to the bottom side, just to illustrate the difference in what I'm talking about in the turn for Brandon Stephens. Nate Wiggins is up top, by the way. We are in our dime set once again on a 1st and 10. So you can see Brandon Stephens has got his back to the quarterback. Nate Wiggins has his back to the sideline. Just a difference in technique that's instructed for each particular coverage and whatever the check is that we call to each side of the field. But that's a slight factor in how things work out when you get a deep pass down the field and Brandon Stephens is, quote, unable to turn his head around and make a play on the ball. I thought Wiggins looked smooth on pretty much everything, especially, like I said, when he's got his eyes in the backfield some. In this case, he's eyeing up the receiver in straight man. It's a 2nd and 10, incomplete pass to Coleman down the left side against Brandon Stephens, who was targeted often. I thought he held up pretty well. To my knowledge, Coleman had 2 catches against him deep down the left sideline. Wiggins has got the confidence to be flat-footed at certain points because he knows he can turn and run with the receiver. He's also very aware. He seems like a guy who understands when the ball should be thrown based upon the blitz pressure that we are bringing. So it's only a 4-man rush here. Wiggins seems to be a guy who understands already at his young age when he can, I don't want to say take chances because we haven't seen that yet necessarily, but he seems to be a guy who understands when he can be flat-footed and react to the receiver and when he has to have depth and kind of have his eyes into the quarterback. Kind of a veteran type player already, if you ask me. 6th possession here. This is going to be the huge pass from Josh Allen to Shakir. Thought I would break this one down. You do have some communication that happens during the play. Eddie Jackson is pointing to Marcus Williams, telling him to match up with Keon Coleman, who's at the top of the numbers. Josh Allen chooses not to throw that ball. There's pressure. Escapes out of there. You know, how do you handle it? Well, first of all, let's talk about what the guys do on scramble drill at receiver. If you run a short route, you're instructed to go long. If you ran a longer or deeper route, you're instructed to come back to the quarterback, check up short, basically creating confusion and this kind of oppositional effect in the defense. That's what happens here. Shakir sneaks up the right sideline. Coleman is the guy who ran the deeper concept at first. Eddie Jackson, despite trying to communicate it to Marcus Williams to take him over, just doesn't have any awareness of Shakir. As it relates to Wiggins, it is a zone delineation. We're playing basically cover 2 to this downside. To the top side, We're playing man with Brandon Stevens. So Wiggins is mentally locked into a zone reaction to this. And when Shakir breaks long, he just doesn't recognize that there comes a time when you just got all zone turns into man. It depends on how they're teaching it. I don't know how they're teaching it. There's not one way to do it. There's multiple ways to get things done when there's a scramble drill. Some people say stay in your zone. Some people say lock up on someone. These guys haven't played very long together at all to be matching up with this. This job is, I don't want to say easier, it's simpler because we're just playing man. Additional to that, playing man with Kyle Hamilton up to the top side. So it's just one of our situations where we're playing zone to one side of the field, generally the wide side, and man to the other. It's a great job by Josh Allen getting the ball out to Khalil Shakir, who really didn't have much of an impact besides this play. Ball's on the left hash, like I said. We are in our dime look. Hamilton thinks he's identified or sniffed out a blitz that we're bringing, so he brings the tight end into the backfield. He was wrong. It's only a four-man rush. We're unable to finish it off. I'm sure that other people have broken it down. You could lock up here, and you could get the job done. You could stay in your zone relationship and let Wiggins stay here. How do you handle this guy? Yeah, sure, the backside safety could think, I'm going to go ahead and match up with that. There's multiple ways to get it done. You can stay locked in. You can match up once the quarterback is broken contain. I'm sure they practiced it all week. At the NFL level, they probably have different reactions depending on the play, which is vastly different than the levels of football that I coached at, whereby you really don't have time or the ability to teach multiple reactions to the same concept out of different defenses. If it had been man, let's do it this way. If it had been man, then someone would be responsible for Khalil Shakir in a concrete fashion. It's a little bit of a gray area. I'm content with whatever anyone's explanation is to it, whether it's a Ravens coach or anyone else. Third quarter now. Wiggins still down at the bottom side of the screen. We're in our dime look again. One of those situations where they're throwing it to Brandon Stevens up top, to his man, I should say, complete to Keon Coleman. Cool. It's an empty set. Ravens are up 21-10, but look at the differential between what's being asked of Nate Wiggins and what's being asked of Brandon Stevens. If you reverse the roles and Wiggins was playing with his back to the quarterback on a ball thrown that's essentially a back shoulder fade, you may very well get the same result. Brandon Stevens can ball. He can absolutely ball. I like the fact that we do play so much man with him. I wonder at times if we don't need to be in more of a press bail alignment, so him be on the line of scrimmage and turn to the quarterback, so keep his back or his butt to the sideline, could possibly promote you being inside leverage, so you're still going to have to defend at times, ball thrown on the left sideline. In my opinion, the reason why we see so many of these balls thrown is because we play so much man. Thrown to Brandon Stevens' side, that is. The difference is, I think it's a quarter, half, essentially. But Stevens is playing man on the backside, so we're playing some combo coverages that when the ball is on the left hash, that we're not playing when the ball is on the right hash. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. We've kind of pushed Wiggins into a half relationship. Jackson kind of hanging out in the middle of the field makes it a little bit gray to figure out exactly what's going on here between him and Marcus Williams. It's a great throw by Josh Allen. Doesn't impact Nate Wiggins at all. Still same possession. This is going to be the forced fumble, the strip sack by Kyle Van Noy. I'm not sure where Josh Allen thinks he's throwing this football. I still don't understand. Hollins is slow playing his route here from the bottom side of the field, bottom side of the screen. Wiggins is also slow playing it because he's seeing into the backfield and he's seeing the route. But Wiggins also just passing this off to the safety, Eddie Jackson, who isn't probably as fast as he was 3, 4, 5 years ago, but neither is Mac Hollins for that matter. So I guess maybe Allen thinks he's getting the football here. But as it stands, it's a great play by Kyle Van Noy. Just another great play by him. He took on the running back who flipped it back to Allen. He collisioned the running back, I should say. And then he was also the guy to strip the quarterback. Just incredible production that we're getting from Kyle Van Noy. He almost is playing at a different speed than pretty much everyone else on the defense, except for Kyle Hamilton. Wiggins I think matching up with, I believe this is Samuel down to the bottom side of the screen, ends up being a throwaway by Josh Allen because Brent Urban is getting a quarterback pressure. He's just smooth. Wiggins does not seem pressed at all. Like his body movement seems very relaxed, superior athlete. I don't want to say he knows it because that almost tries to convey that he's an arrogant in his belief in himself, but he seems so smooth and relaxed when pressed by anything vertical. And again, I think that oftentimes his ability to look in here while defending things assists him in feeling like he's in position to react to no matter what the quarterback does. We certainly wish that we were able to get an interception on the play that's coming up. This is just before the Bills' missed field goal. I like how he has the awareness in play to pick up Samuel here, who's a dangerous player. They've got the running back lined up into the bunch and Samuel lined up in the backfield. Hollins is pinning down on Roquan Smith, and they're trying to get Samuel out into the flats. I believe this is conceptually similar to something we saw in the preseason, down right corner of the end zone, I believe against the Eagles, but I could be wrong. Might have been the Falcons, where Wiggins ends up staying with his man too much, and the running back slips out into the end zone for an easy touchdown. Think about that play if you believe that if you agree with me in my assertion that this is conceptually similar, and now check out his reaction to this block by Hollins. He's going to go out into the flats to match Samuel. I just like that he's maintaining outside leverage here. He's got the speed to catch up to things. Also, by the way, I enjoy the fact that he gets a little shot in on Samuel while Josh Allen still has the football in his hands. We were physical and mean on Sunday night. Marlon Humphrey and Eddie Jackson both had chances to finish off plays. This is one where Humphrey just cannot give up outside leverage. It's going to be difficult to tackle Josh Allen anyway. You don't have many choices, but certainly you don't want to just let the quarterback beat you to the outside. You got to make him go flow back to where all your help is. Nearly intercepted by Wiggins up the right side. This is Trubisky's in the game. It's 35-10 at this point, so the game is already over absolutely, whereas earlier in the third quarter, it was just over functionally. Trubisky trying to get out of there. Wiggins really had an opportunity to get an interception here, possibly two during the game with the ball that Josh Allen threw behind Hollins earlier. He'd definitely like to have this one back because you catch this ball and really you've got one guy to deal with, Samuel, and you've got a possibility to work up the left sideline and maybe get into the end zone. I thought he played really well. We're not talking about a game where he had an interception, could have had one or two, or a bunch of passes defense. So I get it if people aren't as impressed as I am. He fit within the structure of our defense. That's point number one. Number two, I didn't see guys open who he was dealing with. I also like the fact that he's playing with his back or his butt to the sideline a lot, able to see the quarterback and see the routes developing in front of him. Basically, we're not asking as much of him as we're asking of Brandon Stephens on the other side. Now, part of that is just the structure of the Ravens defense. The same dynamic existed last year. Brandon Stephens was playing a lot of press man, ended up with his back to the quarterback, and Marlon Humphrey or Ronald Darby, whoever was on the other side, played a little bit more of a zone or a read type corner. And for me, right now where Nate Wiggins is, I think that suits him. I think that fits him. He fits within the structure of our defense. He fits within the flow of our defense as well. He matches the talent and speed of all the guys that are around him. I really like Kyle Hamilton as the dime linebacker. I'm not sure if you agree. I understand that coming into the season there was so much discussion about Kyle Hamilton. He's going to play safety now. You can call those positions whatever you want. On a 3rd and 8, I don't necessarily care where Kyle Hamilton is. I just care about where teams target us. And I think that teams, if we didn't play Hamilton as our dime linebacker to the boundary, I think that teams would be attacking us backside a whole lot more often. We can essentially force teams to go to the field a little bit more often with Kyle Hamilton as the dime linebacker to the boundary, which is kind of the exact opposite of last year when he played so much nickel to the field. But with Marlon Humphrey healthy, Nate Wiggins healthy, and Kyle Hamilton there playing dime linebacker, those three, if you ask me, really build our defense from the second level or the third level forward. And I think Nate Wiggins is a big part of that, even though statistically he didn't have a huge contribution. I have no idea what his quote grades were from PFF or other services, but the film tells me that it's a guy who played at a much higher level than he did last week in Dallas. Appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the film study video in the comment section, and what play and the plays that I chose to try to illustrate how well Wiggins played despite not being targeted a lot, and the differences in what's being asked of him versus Brandon Stevens on the other side. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study video, please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.